and welcome to the National D-Day Memorial's 2021 commemoration of Memorial Day. I am April Cheek Messier, president of our foundation. For the second year, we mark Memorial Day in the midst of a pandemic, and we gather not in a large crowd to honor heroes of our past, but in this virtual format. And though we are open and have a Memorial Day display on site today, we still wanted to provide you with this virtual tribute. We look forward to a day when COVID-19 is only a distant memory, and we can once again welcome large crowds to our site to remember those who laid down their lives to secure the freedoms we all cherish. A day when we can once again shake hands humbly and gratefully with a veteran, once again offer a sympathetic hug to a widow or to the heartbroken child of a fallen hero. In almost 250 years of our nation's history, more than 1.1 million men and women have died in military service. At the National D-Day Memorial, we honor them all. But of course, our daily focus remains upon the more than 2,500 soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Coast Guardsmen who died on a single day, June 6, 1944, in the invasion of Normandy. This is the only memorial in our nation where you can reflect on the fallen heroes of D-Day individually as you see each one of their names enshrined on a wall of honor. More than 20 years ago, the National D-Day Memorial began our necrology project, a massive effort to research and record the names of all D-Day fallen for the United States and each of our allies on D-Day. No one had ever attempted to compile such a list, and the effort to gather the necessary information was a daunting task. Our researchers soon discovered that military records were incomplete, or absent, or contradictory. In the chaos of the battlefield, it was not always possible to know if a man had been killed on D-Day or afterwards, and keeping absolutely accurate records could not be the main priority. Our team poured painstakingly through after-action reports, burial records, hometown obituaries, and applications for military headstones to compile the most comprehensive list of D-Day fatalities ever assembled. However, our necrology project has never been considered a finished product. We are well aware that there are records we haven't yet searched, discrepancies we haven't yet resolved. And so the work goes on. Periodically, through the years, we have corrected errors and found occasion to add names to our wall as new evidence is uncovered. Today, we use the somber occasion of Memorial Day to do just that, to add two names, to honor two men whose sacrifices until now have not been suitably recognized. The addition of Captain Clarence and Ensign Frederick Nye Moses brings the total known D-Day fallen to 2,502 Americans and 1,913 allies. We will tell you the story of these two men and their sacrifice in just a while. With their addition, the total number of names honored at our memorial now stands at 4,415, a sobering reminder of what it cost to secure the beaches of Normandy and open a path to victory in World War II. The patriotic hymn, America, speaks of heroes proved in liberating strife, who more than self their country loved, and mercy more than life. As we commemorate Memorial Day, take the opportunity to reflect on its significance. We may be socially distanced today, but wherever you are, you enjoy a costly freedom. For the blessings of liberty, we owe an eternal debt of gratitude to these heroes. We invite you to join us in honoring their memory today.
Frederick Nye Moses Jr. was born in Wyoming in 1920, but grew up in Hermosa Beach, California. When the U.S. entered World War II, Moses, usually known by his middle name of Nye, was a student at the University of Southern California and a naval reservist. Upon graduation in 1943, Nye reported to Northwestern University for further training in England to take command of Landing Craft Tank 540. By the beginning of 1944, it was not long before the men of 540 were informed that in addition to their daily task of moving men and equipment around southern England, they would soon take part in the greatest invasion of the war, Operation Overlord, the assault on the beaches of Normandy. Ensign Moses was determined to prepare his crew for their vital role. He led his men in extensive training and practice exercises, including the Operation Tiger, the disastrous practice landing at Slapping Sands, England. On June the 1st of 1944, LCT 540 received the orders to load the men and equipment of the 5th Engineers Special Brigade, attached to the 1st Infantry Division. It soon became clear that this was to be more than another practice. The invasion was at hand. Nye Moses received his orders. 540 was to assault the Easy Red sector of Omaha Beach only an hour after the invasion began. The LCT would be one of the first large vessels to approach the beaches, making it a prime target for the German artillery awaiting them. As 540 approached the beach, it was clear that things were not going well. The landings were chaos. The obstacles and the mines were still in place, and the signal information were nowhere in sight. Nonetheless, Moses ordered his ship to continue to the beach, even as the artillery shells began to splash around the vessel. About 900 yards from the beach, Moses stepped out of the pilot house to shout instructions to some of the men on the deck below. A German shell hit Nye Moses, severing his left leg below the knee. Shrapnel rebounded off the bulkhead and hit him again as he fell, inflicting more serious injuries. Despite the pain and shock, Moses continued to give orders and encourage his men. His executive officer, William Wilhoit, took command and continued the charge to the beach, despite the vessels sustaining at least 8 serious artillery hits and 3 of the Army engineers also being killed. At least 8 other sailors were wounded. Reaching the beach and still under intense fire, 540 attempted to offload its valuable cargo of vessels. However, in the attack, the ramp's engine had been damaged and could not be lowered. Ensign Wilhoit ordered that the vessel to withdraw to a safer distance. Repairs were effected, and LST-40 made a second run to the Omaha beach. This time, the crew was able to offload its cargo of men, vessels, fuel, and ammunition. The Allies would win the Omaha beach by the end of the day, and the valor of LCT 540 was one of the key to that costly victory. Ensign Frederick Nye Moses would not live to see the success. He asked his crew to write to his family and extend their comfort. Jerry Bender, the ship's cook, who also acted as the chaplain, stayed with him to the end and recited the 23rd Psalm. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, thy comfort me. Thou prepare myself a place before me in the presence of mine enemies. In the presence of the enemy, with his vessel still under fire, Nye Moses died at about 08:30 on the 6th of June, 1944. His remains were turned over to the Coast Guard cutter the next day and were buried at sea in the English Channel. For reasons never entirely clear, his date of death was listed as 10 June, perhaps the day that the report of the burial at sea was made by the Coast Guard. However, multiple oral histories and accounts of the actions of LCT-40 leave no doubt that he died on D-Day. For his valor, fidelity, and sacrifice, even at the cost of his own life, Nye Moses was posthumously awarded the Silver Star. Ensign Wilhoit was recognized with the Navy Cross, and LCT 540 received a Presidential Unit Citation for their part it played in D-Day. Today, we're honored and humbled to add the name of Frederick Nye Moses Jr. to plaque W33 on our memorial wall. Ensign Moses, we, a free people, honor your service and thank you for your sacrifice. You will not be forgotten.
Born February 6, 1917 in Ohio, Clarence A. Toll grew up in the Roaring '20s and the challenging Depression years. In young adulthood, he was employed as a photographer and spent a year in college. But in January 1941, he answered his nation's call and enlisted in the Army as a private. Like so many other men who joined the peacetime Army, he could not imagine that before 1941 was over, the United States would be at war. By 1944, Toll had attained the rank of captain and was in the command of Company D, 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment, 82nd Airborne Division. Widely respected and liked by his men, he trained them heavily for the most anticipated operation of World War II, the invasion of France. When 6 June 1944 broke, Toll and his men were already in the air over the English Channel, approaching the French coast. The mission of the paratroopers of the 507th, to jump in to assigned drop zones, straddling the Murdoch River, seize crucial bridges and crossroads, and prevent the German army from moving reinforcements to repulse the seaborne invasion. Chaotic, unpredictable, Toll and his men were widely scattered across the countryside. Recognizing his company was too dispersed to act as a unit, Captain Toll gathered what men he could find and began leading them in the direction of the crucial village of Armeyville. In Armeyville, Toll's men encountered a house where a force of Germans with a machine gun pinned them down. By one account, Captain Toll stormed the house himself and kicked in the door. By another, he stayed back to direct his troops in assaulting the house. But all accounts agree that about noon on June 6, 1944, Clarence Toll was hit in the chest by a German machine gun and was mortally wounded. He died soon afterwards in the arms of his company's first sergeant. Despite the rigors of combat, the grieving men of Company D made it a priority to care for their beloved captain's remains, taking them with them as they were soon forced to evacuate Amperville. Eventually, they turned their captain over to officials of graves, registration for burial. For reasons never understood, but probably due to the chaos of the battlefield, his official death date was listed as 17 June. However, his grave marker in Normandy, American Cemetery, bears the date 6 June, and the weight of the historical evidence points clearly to his death on D-Day, making him eligible for inclusion on our memorial wall. While Captain Toll did not live to see it, the 507th made a profound difference in the eventual Allied victory in Normandy. By controlling the crossing of the Murdoch River, the 507th prevented the Germans from moving their troops to oppose the landing at Utah Beach. For this vital service, the 507th Parachute Infantry Regiment was awarded the Presidential Unit Citation. Clarence Toll, for his service, even unto death, was recognized with a Purple Heart and a posthumous Silver Star. In a letter of condolence to his widow Marion, Major General Matthew Ridgway, commander of the 82nd Airborne, spoke of Clarence Toll as a likable and loyal officer. He always had a good word for his fellow officers, and his thoughtfulness for his men made him admired and respected by all. General Ridgway went on to note that the respect and affection of comrades are a soldier's most priceless possessions. These possessions, I believe, your husband had earned in full measure. Death of such a man leaves with each member of the division a lasting sense of loss. Today we are honored and humbled to add the name Clarence A. Toll to plaque W33 on our memorial wall. We, a free people, honor your service and thank you for your sacrifice. You will not be forgotten.
What we call Memorial Day began as Decoration Day in the aftermath of the Civil War. After that devastating conflict cost our nation 750,000 lives, there was an understandable desire of survivors in both the North and the South to memorialize the valiant dead by placing flowers, or in the 19th century terminology, decorating their graves. When and exactly where the tradition began is disputed. Several local commemorations in 1865 or 66 are held to be the beginning of the tradition. But the main drive for a national recognition of Decoration Day began in 1868 with Union General John Logan's call for a nationwide commemoration on May 30th, a date chosen because flowers would be in bloom pretty much anywhere. At the very first official Decoration Day in 1868, Ohio Congressman and future President James A. Garfield praised the heroes buried at Arlington Cemetery. For love of country, they accepted death, and thus resolved all doubts, and made immortal their patriotism and their virtue. But with these, the conflict ended. The victory was won, when death stamped on them the great seal of heroic character and closed a record which years can never blot. After World War I, Memorial Day's name and purpose were altered to recognize the dead of all American wars as well as losses in peacetime service, not just those of the Civil War. However, it was not until 1971 that Memorial Day became an official national holiday. At the same time, in a move that was not popular with all, Congress moved Memorial Day from May 30th to the last Monday of May. Today, it remains a day of somber reflection, and in the words of Abraham Lincoln, it is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. Our nation has been richly blessed from its beginning with men and women who recognize that the promise of America is a cause worth defending, worth risking their lives, worth paying, if necessary, the ultimate sacrifice. Whether they wore the wool of a Continental soldier, or the blue or gray of the Civil War, or the olive drab of the men of D-Day, or the desert tans of modern heroes in Iraq and Afghanistan, we honor those who have given their all to defend our freedom. We do this thinking of the challenge issued decades ago by Civil War veteran and Supreme Court Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes. At the grave of a hero we end, not with sorrow, but with the contagion of his courage. Grief is not the end of all. Our dead brothers still live for us and bid us think of life, not death. As I listen, the great chorus of life and joy begins again. Our trumpets sound once more a note of daring, hope, and will.
The exhibit you see here is a powerful reminder of the losses of war, from the American Revolution through today. This display of fallen soldier battle crosses is intended to pay homage to America's fallen in current and past conflicts, some distant and almost forgotten, others closer in our hearts and memories. We honor the courage and tenacity of our nation's 18th, 19th, and 20th century soldiers and salute the volunteers of today. It is to all of them we owe our liberty and our gratitude. The helmet on rifle with bayonet thrust in the ground was used during battle to mark the spot of a fallen soldier or Marine for later retrieval. It is a powerful symbol of respect and also of courage, sacrifice, and loss. Our current-day military rarely has the need to mark the fallen in this fashion. Instead, memorial services are often held after the battle that combine the helmet, rifle, and boots of each fallen soldier as part of a visual tribute. This combination has come to be known as the Fallen Soldier Battle Cross.
At the National D-Day Memorial Foundation, we are very much aware that for every service member who has died for our nation on the battlefield, there are others on the home front who also endured an agonizing sacrifice. Starting in World War I and continuing in World War II and beyond, the families who lost loved ones in military service were recognized with an iconic banner that was to be hung in the family's window. The banner featured a vivid gold star to signify that someone from that household had paid the ultimate price for freedom. These brave Americans became known as Gold Star families. Like their sons and daughters who died in uniform, they are also heroes. Herschel Woody Williams knows all too well the cost of serving on the front lines. Williams is our nation's last living recipient of the Medal of Honor from World War II. As a Marine during the Battle of Iwo Jima, he courageously stormed multiple enemy gun emplacements to silence the guns that had pinned down his comrades. His example of valor has inspired many since 1945, but Williams has always been quick to speak of the bravery of others ahead of his own. Beginning in 2013, the Herschel Woody Williams Medal of Honor Foundation has taken on the project of paying tribute to these brave Americans through the promotion, creation, and implementation of Gold Star Families Memorial Monuments throughout the nation. Woody personally chose the National D-Day Memorial as the site for the first one in Virginia and dedicated it here in 2017. Bedford, after all, is a town that understands what the defense of freedom can cost a community and its families. On D-Day, Bedford suffered the highest per capita loss of its sons than any other community in the nation. The community, therefore, had the highest percentage of Gold Star families for D-Day as well. The enduring pain of that sacrifice has indelibly shaped this community for more than 75 years now. Like so much of our memorial, our Gold Star Families Monument is a cathartic place for those who grieve. Though etched with World War II imagery, this monument is for all families at any point in our history who have lost loved ones and have served and sacrificed so much for their country. To the rest, it is another reminder that freedom is not free. The price of liberty is borne by our sons and daughters in uniform and by the families they leave behind. We can never forget the sacrifices of either. Here, we remember them.
Here at the Annie J. Bronson Veterans Memorial Walk, the Inscribed Bricks are a permanent tribute to men and women who have served in the armed forces of the United States. These lasting tributes are not limited to service in World War II and can encompass any service period. Placed prominently on the memorial grounds, they will be viewed by thousands of visitors each year. The placement of each brick is not only an investment in the legacy of a loved one, but also an investment in the future of the memorial.